Can you kill the lights?
All right, welcome to another edition of Kill the Lights podcast. This is Joey Dizon, and with me is my co-host Carl De Mesa.
Hello.
We talk about the dark stuff, the underground culture, anything horror or thriller related, anything that makes us happy, basically. And today we're going to be talking about Hail Satan. No, it's not a horror film. No, it's not a thriller. It's actually a documentary, mainly following the exploits of the Satanic Temple, released in 2019.
Earlier this year.
It shows the origins and the of the Satanic Temple, and they're being involved in grassroots
movements
in a grassroots movement, basically
popularize the religion.
Yeah, popularize the religion and encourage activism among not just its members but among people. It follows the exploits of one the main guy,
the main
film.
activist, yeah.
His
Lucian Greaves.
Lucian Greaves. Very, very, how would you describe the guy?
He's a very flamboyant guy, huh?
Flamboyant, not gay, but...
No, not gay, but very...
Yeah, he loves his theatrics.
Very asexual, I guess.
Yeah, he has that look, very clean cut, very, very well spoken, very, very eloquent.
I think it's a great representation for the Church of Satan, as since he's
the Satanic Temple,
Satanic Temple, and this representation of a Dark Lord and Savior Satan.
Yeah, because for those of you who don't know, even Satanists don't get along. There are many factions. There's the Church of Satan, established by Anton LaVey, but the Satanic Temple is a totally different organization.
Yeah. I think it's important to make the distinction between the LaVeyan Satanism and the secular Satanism, right?
Well, one of the main important things, I guess, is first of all, before you getting into this movie, is the distinction between these different factions. There are a lot of them, but the main ones, of course, the most popular is the Church of Satan, established by Anton LaVey. They see Satan not as a physical being, but sort of like something as like the Force in Star Wars. I guess that's the best way they describe it. It's that inner primal energy, basically, that
seeks to compete.
The struggle to be the complete man.
Yes.
You drink what you want to drink, you eat what you want to eat, you fuck what you want to fuck, basically.
Yes.
So it's
back
more
to
of
your
a
primal roots.
Primal roots. However, a lot more theatric.
And the symbolism of Satan. There's like saints they honor the dukes of hell, right?
Exactly. So they do acknowledge the mythology behind it. Whereas in the Satanic Temple, it's really a way of life.
It is it's more of individualism.
I
think.
I mean, LaVeyan Satanism does share that, but this is minus the theatrics.
Minus much of the imagery. I mean, they do, both of them have black masses, right? But they also wildly differ in the execution of either of those.
Because what you'll notice is a lot of the members of the Satanic Temple, they're closer to everyday goths.
Yes,
like
rather than
people
Satanists.
who are into the arts, tattoos, whatnot. Basically, godless people.
Yes, there you go. They're more atheists, right?
So yeah, I that's how I would define it. I could be wrong.
I think they kind of worship the self as well.
Yeah, and not too much. Again, not too much with the whole rules and whatever. And so it's a lot about, and the Church of Satan. The membership. There are membership fees. There's bureaucracy within the.
You gotta buy the robe. You gotta buy into the image, right?
So there's a DIY starter kit. Where does it the Satanic Temple? Basically, you register and you're free to do
whatever
what it is, what it is
can
your
define
passion
yourself.
in life is. Yeah. So yeah, Hail Satan, released in 2019, follows the exploits because they were in the news.
Yes. Why were they in the news?
In a bunch of cities and states, they were challenging. They were basically challenging the freedom to religion, the freedom to belief, because as we all know, like the states as a country was founded. It was first founded on values like equality and well, freedom and whatnot, but based in a very Christian or Catholic,
very
Judeo-Christian context. So it was all based there, like liberty of all people. But then, as it evolved as a country, they cherish these ideals of equality even more, and to uphold these. And they included the freedom to believe in whatever you want to believe. So, like there was the Satanic Panic in the 70s.
And
basically,
the 80s,
if you were a Satanist or you identified yourself as a Satanist, you were a rapist, you were a murderer. Basically, you were a bad guy.
Yes.
But part of the agenda of the Satanic Temple is to prove that we're not bad guys. We're just trying
normal
to stand
people.
up for our beliefs, because it is part of our right that we can believe in anything.
And you need to respect that. So the documentary follows their mission to do exactly that. When Lucien Greaves and his fellow Satanic Temple activists tried to erect
a statue of Baphomet and
2 kids, right, on his
kids on his lap. Mainly, number one, criticizing the teaching of religion in public schools.
This is in Massachusetts, apparently.
Yep, where the Salem witch trials
were held,
and that's where it started. And it sort of became a traveling circus kind of thing, because it started in Massachusetts, and they sort of like built a tour around it. They were touring the Baphomet statues. Everywhere there were cultural landmarks that were related. Like in one state, there were the 2 tablets of the 10 Commandments. They would park it right next to whatever that. Basically, just being a wise guy, saying that
this is our right, because
this is our right. You have the
religious
right to put
pluralism.
you have the right to put those stone tablets of the 10 Commandments. We have the right to erect this as well. We have the necessary paperwork. We have the necessary permits.
And that was amazing, I think, how they went about it, because they were. Not many people will know this, but they were staunchly non-violent.
Yeah, they were non-violent. Plus, they did have the paperwork.
Exactly.
So the thing was,
the bureaucracy. You couldn't say no.
I guess the challenge they wanted to put out is, okay, you're acknowledging our right, but what if we really did it?
Yeah. What if we want to do it? Why? How could you stop us?
So is this all just something you say to appear like you respect
religious
equality?
pluralism,
exactly,
stuff like that?
So they finally did it. They took it on the road, and the basically the entire movie is based around sometimes the fanatical reaction from Christians. A lot of times that were hilarious or funny.
Like the fanatical reaction is way worse than what the Satanists are actually trying to do.
Ever did, and it showed that a lot of the Satanists were involved in, like we mentioned, a lot of other things. A lot of them were activists for other things like
climate change, women's rights,
empowerment.
They would pick up garbage on the street, right?
Welfare of animals, for example. A lot of activists, tree huggers, as some people like.
Yeah, a lot of them were in PETA.
Yeah, so again, it's simply. The basic thing about the movie is, 1, you're not supposed to be judged by your beliefs.
Exactly.
2, you're not supposed to be judged by what you look like.
Exactly.
And number 3 is, the challenge was, aren't we all just trying to enjoy our rights as human beings?
The Satanic Temple, I think, did much for me to erase the idea of the murdering, goat sacrificing Satanist that the LaVeyan Satanism has instilled in the Satanic Panic of the 70s and 80s, right?
Exactly. Because whatever you believe in, these guys never caught a break. They
never got a break. They were always being blamed, right?
Yeah, they're always being blamed. If there's a school shooting, they're blamed. If one of their members was still in school, he was bullied or made fun of just because he was into something different. So this is like the small guy finally getting the better of the day. Did I like it as a documentary? Look, I don't identify as a Satanist myself. I do have a lot of criticism for organized religion, but I have never identified as a Satanist or a satanic guy. But I guess the success of this movie, 1, is the guys from the Satanic Temple, especially their flamboyant leader,
Lucien
Greaves, they didn't even take themselves too seriously.
They have fake names, like something out of fantasy.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Their names are like, like internet handles or whatever.
They're like black metal made up
and
names.
Number two, the thing that they had going for them was they did study the law.
They're very smart.
They did the research, and one, they were very eloquent in expressing their beliefs. Number two, they didn't even raise a voice.
That's those scenes where they were at the community meetings.
Yeah,
they would explain themselves eloquently,
properly. They behaved
respectfully,
followed the decorum. Like if Greaves had to meet with certain people, he'd be dressed well and whatever, albeit in black, but he was still decent.
Well.
Yeah. So the reason why I enjoy this documentary, why we wanted to talk about it is it doesn't matter what you believe in, it seems, to this documentary, but it just brings up very good questions, and it shows the magic of having questions.
It is.
Like, if these guys can do it, why are not we allowed? And after you explain it, let's study if that's actually like justified. And to me, that was really good, because again, Satanism or not, you should know what your rights are.
Yes.
And especially for like in the West, it's really nothing. It's nothing new or whatnot. But especially like for Filipino audiences who, I mean, we're known that maybe in the last 10 or 20 years, a lot of people have spoken up about certain issues, but basically we're known as
very
people
meek.
Pleasers.
And very, like, we hate being hated.
Yeah, so, we like to please everybody, or we will give an opinion, but once somebody tries to shut it down, we don't fight for it as passionately.
You mentioned, Joey, in the beginning about how the factions didn't get along, and there was a point in the documentary where Lucien Greaves and his activists needed to uncouple.
Yeah,
so they were distance themselves from a faction that was renouncing the non-violence, because that was like rule number 2 in their code or something, right? And I think that was a great moment for how strongly they needed to hold on to their core beliefs, because
to their credo,
yeah. When do you say this is Satanist? When do you say this is not? And I think it was great that they were standing up for their code, because the woman who had started that faction and started to do violence in the rallies and in the protest marches that they were holding, if you were really, I think personally, and resonated with me, if you're really one with your belief, I mean, if you really believed and were faithful to the devotion of your core beliefs, why would you need a baseball bat or a fist to defend it?
Yeah.
Wow. Like, all right, go Satan.
Yeah. It really shows that number one, it shows how different each individual really is. I mean,
it his
shows
belief,
the factions within the faction.
Yeah.
But what I like is, one, he had the integrity to, number one, he really showed, it was very eye-opening because everything was shown. It showed the business behind the Satanic Temple.
How hard it is to uphold it, right? They were selling
merch. They were selling merch because they needed a headquarters. Their headquarters, very simple, looked good, but very simple. Had a fax machine because, in order to be a legitimate business and to be legitimately registered, you need a business address,
phone number.
You need a phone number.
Yeah,
so it showed the struggles as well without sugarcoating. I mean, like, if this was somebody else, they might have been too embarrassed to show their headquarters. Like, it's not a fancy headquarters
don't
or whatever.
Come in here. It's very sparse. It's very
keep the
Spartan.
mystery. But here, the mystique is actually uncloaked. They showed themselves for what they are, what they believe in, and even they themselves, like I mentioned a while ago, they had the ability to laugh at themselves. Yeah, this is what we do. I
kind of love the process of them going through the making of the Baphomet. The statue, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of absurd, but like, okay, and we're doing this.
And it shows the blunders in construction, and that it would cost this much.
And they were like, "Do we need to do this?
Yeah,
it'll take a lot."
It sort of humanized Satanists.
Satanists, right?
They're regular ding-dongs like you and me. They make mistakes and whatever. It's just that they so happen to believe in a certain their
set
beliefs
of tenets,
on
actually. Not even Satan,
on how to
right?
live is fairly different, and maybe their views about the afterlife, their views on organized religion.
Mm-hmm.
So, Hail Satan. I give someone a pretty high score.
It was enjoyable, right?
It was nice. And it's one of those documentaries where, some days you're bored and you want to revisit certain parts. So you end up
just watching
that again. And then when you're looking for your favorite parts, you say, I'll just let it roll. And then before you know it, you watched it for the second time. So I give it a pretty high score, maybe a 6.5, even up to a 7. I mean,
that's generous of you, man.
It's something that, it was released online, so it's one of those things that, put it in your hard drive.
That's true.
And interesting, and if you have a bunch of friends, because there's always going to be that idiot, especially if you're not the religious type, there's always going to be that religious nut who says, oh, why aren't you religious? Why don't you go to church? Are you a Satanist? This would be a good film to look. Before you open your mouth, maybe you should watch this and, learn a few things.
I think it's a great way to ferret out the fake liberals among your friends, right?
Exactly. So I give it a 7, maybe 6.57. It's somewhere there. How about you?
Same. I think it's a 7, not only because it's enjoyable, but also because the choice of subject matter, it wasn't sugar coated. I really loved how the Black Mass. Oh, you'd think the Black Mass was a murder of a goat or like a cockroach or something on a pentagram. It's just folks standing around, like affirming their individualism.
Dudes having a party.
I know. Right? That's a pretty boring thing, but if it helps them with their spirituality, great. I think the only problem I had with it, it's a minor issue, really. It's the pacing. It wasn't very tightly woven, right? But then again, if it's that kind of documentary, okay, cool. But again, I think if you're a serious documentarist, leave a lot on the cutting room floor and just put those scenes in the DVD special.
And you know what? Like supporting your point, like even the editing, none of it's impressive.
None of it is impressive. It's very simple, right?
Very simple. At least they used the high def camera. Audio was okay, but
there's no sound design, right?
Yeah, like if this was like it's sort of like a what do you call it? Sort of like a TV manual.
That's true.
Like it'll help you.
The people were barely out of college, but they're very talented. Something like that.
Yeah. Like straightforward. Again, it's like reading. It's like the equivalent of toilet reading. If there was toilet watching,
it's entertaining.
Like if I was taking a dump and I wanted to be entertained while I was taking a dump, it's the movie I'd pop in. It's as far as documentaries go, it's the documentary I'd pop in. So if there's toilet reading, usually when you say toilet reading, it's usually an Archie double digest or whatever. Right?
I laughed the fuck out of my head, man, when I was watching it. Like, Satanist, really?
They're again very, very cool in a way that cool meaning fun.
Yeah, it's
the
fun.
Ability to
it's
laugh
fun,
at yourself.
And it's a fun religion, looks like.
Yeah, it looks like. I mean, I wouldn't join it just because
I'd hang out with this.
But I'd hang out with these dudes. You know what? You guys are welcome to sit beside me on a park bench or whatever. You know, spend the rest of the afternoon talking shop on whatever. But not for everyone. Definitely. Like I would agree if it freaked out a few kids or super religious people.
Even if the Satanists weren't.
I mean, the title is Hail Satan, so it's so funny. But
even if the Satanists weren't actually trying to ram their religion down your throats, right?
I guess that's another plus point because never did I feel that I wanted to join or I was being invited to join
or being bullied into anything.
It's just a story about how shit went down during the early part of 2019.
More power to them, man. You know, I think
the director Penny Lane actually she became a member after.
We were talking about that. It's like, so she went native.
Yeah, she went, and you know what? That's the best kind of director for something like this. Yes. I mean, she went into the project. She wasn't part of it. and therefore she was very objective. And after, I guess she enjoyed
thought about it.
She thought about it. She enjoyed what she did. She probably agreed that, hey, these guys aren't bad. Decided to join the party. Nothing wrong with that.
I hope she makes more documentaries about
I hope
them.
she does. Yeah.
Right?
Anyway, you should definitely check it out. Again, Hail Satan. You can watch it online for free.
Mm-hmm. I think it's on Netflix by now.
Yeah. So you should check it out if you have like spare time. You know, that time when you can't decide which movie to pop in. You know, watch a documentary. I find that documentaries are always interesting when when you least expect them.
This one, you'll learn a thing or two, man.
Yeah, and even if you don't, you know what? It's entertaining.
It is very entertaining. It's funny. It's very self-deprecating.
This is a movie that you don't have to agree with, and that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
Everyone can be his or her own different self.
Not queer eye for the Satanist. Definitely.
No, not at all.
Thank you, guys.
Anyway, again, it's been another episode of Kill the Lights podcast. You can follow us on Facebook, Kill the Lights PH, and I don't know if we're thinking about putting up an Instagram account. I don't know, maybe in the near future. Yeah. But so far, Facebook lang. This has been your host, Joey D, and my co-host, Carl De Mesa.
Yes, guys.
See you at the next episode, and take care, man. Goodbye. This has been the Kill the Lights podcast, recorded and produced at Big Baby Studios. You can follow us on Facebook and on Spotify if you want to check us out.